So, for my girls that like the heritage videos, you guys have bonus heritage videos this week because I did one heritage photo Wednesday and I have another one for you today. So, the photo that I have is a photo of my grandma. This was taken in the winter of 1930, 1931. So, her first winter, she was just a year old, or probably her second winter, but and I love her cute little coat. How cute. She looks kind of grumpy, and you can see there's like snow on the ground back here. So my plan for this layout is I want to scrapbook this photo, and I'm going to use some of the papers and embellishments from the scrapbook store December kits. These three are from the scrapbook store December kit. And then I have these cute little buttons that I thought would work really nice for a warm and cozy photo. So to pull in some more colors into this page, I looked on Pinterest and I looked for a color combination that included the red and the green, but also had some other colors in it. So I went with this one, which also has this light blue and this like pale green and a really pretty kind of like creamy color. And then I also pulled out some vintagey looking papers from Prima. So here's my plan. This is what I want to do. I want to fussy cut some of these triangles and use them. And then once I have one or two fussy cut, I want to use them as a template to cut triangles from some of these other pattern papers. Then I want to use all of the pattern papers all together to back my cut file. And then we're going to put it all together. So these cut files this is a cut file from Cut to You. I'll link the cut file below if you're interested. And of course, I'll link to the scrapbook store as well. So that is my plan. So before I come back, I'm going to back my cut file. And I think I'm going to ink it on camera so you guys can see me kind of ink the flower up. And then I'll back it off camera. And then I'm going to fussy cut the patterns I want. I don't want all of them, just like this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, a couple of them. So I'm going to fussy cut the patterns I want from this paper and then use the template to fussy cut some of these, which I'll probably put that part on video. And yeah, and then we'll come back and we'll create a whole new layout. So let's go ahead and get started with these flowers. I have chosen a couple of colors of Distress Oxide ink that match my color palette that I pulled from Pinterest. And so the colors I'm using here are Antique Linen, Old Paper, Forest Moss, and Fired Brick. And I'm going to start with the leaves. So I'm going to blend together the old paper and the forest moss for the leaves. And I want to make sure that my leaves are green. So what I'm going to do is you saw me grab some washi tape and I'm just masking off the area with some washi, masking off the area I want to color. And also masking off this area of washi tape will also help in that it will hold my cut file to my glass mat. So I can work right on this mat. I can use the washi tape both to mask my area so that the leaves and the flower will be different colors, and also it will help me to be able to hold this rather intricate thin cut file stable on my glass mat as I work. So I went ahead and did the very inside of my rose with the fired brick, and now I want to use the antique linen color just to blend out that fired brick, which will give it a little bit of a not so pigmented, not so dark. It'll blend it out a little bit. And it will also add that pretty kind of light creamy yellow color that you see in the color palette that I'm working from. Grabbing a color palette like this is really, really great when you are using a rather themed kit or collection and you want to scrapbook something that is not in that theme. Gives you ideas for what colors you can pull into that layout to give it a completely different look. And so I highly recommend go into Pinterest, get the 2 colors, you know, that you think are kind of they speak too much to the theme, and then put those in, and behind it put color palette, and you will get loads of beautiful color palettes you can use that will take your themed products out of that theme and into whatever you'd like it to be. So I'm just going to clean up my desk here, put away my Distress Oxides. I'm going to ink up this second rose, and then I'm going to work on fussy cutting that paper. So I took that diamond paper and fussy cut the diamonds out. I'm not using all of them. I'm just using the ones that I think, again, will go with my color palette. And then what I'm doing now is I want to add in that baby blue and the minty green and the yellow, and I'm going to do that by taking the fussy cut triangles that I fussy cut from the paper, and I'm using them as a template. As you can see here, this is a really easy shape. It's easy to cut, very, very easy to do, and I'm just holding it down with my thumb. If you're really unsure about cutting them like this, you could also go ahead and put just a tiny bit of adhesive down and cut around it and then pull them apart, but I really didn't have any problems just holding them there with my thumb and then cutting around them. And then you can see here how I'm taking just some of those pieces and cutting them out. Next up, I went ahead and I backed my cut file, and now I'm going to go ahead and mat my photos. So I'm going to take my photo and I'm just going to mat it twice. I'm going to mat it once with this beautiful Prima paper just to give it a darker edge that will coordinate with the background. I decided to go with a nice craft background. I thought that this color worked well with my color scheme. I wasn't liking the way white looked, especially with that baby blue being part of my color palette. I wasn't happy with how the blue would kind of just, and that yellow too, they just kind of would like sink into the white, and I wanted a little bit more contrast. And so to get that little bit more contrast, I'm going to go ahead and use a craft background. So I'm taking my Vintage Photo Distress Oxide inks, and I'm going to mat my photo twice, once with that Prima paper, and then the other paper I'm matting it with is this pretty kind of wood grain, washed out wood grain. And I have no clue where these extra papers came from. I just sat down with my bin of 6x6 paper pads and flipped through till I found the ones that matched the colors I was looking for. So I know that I want to go ahead and have that kind of an orientation with the cut files in the photo. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this. This is just a ruler. It's a cut-a-line guide for Sweet Petunia, but you don't need that. Any ruler would work. This is just what I had handy. Sorry, Cooper was letting me know the mailman had arrived. Good times, good times. All right, so using that pencil guide, I want to now fill in all of these triangles that I created and I'm going to stop so I have a line that goes through that diagonal middle of my paper. I'm inking all of the edges with the Vintage Photo Distress Oxide inks. That will give me a nice cohesive, it'll just let those edges kind of blend into the craft. And you won't have those stark white edges that some of these papers have because they were just 6x6 papers and they weren't thick or anything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in. I am leaving a good bit of space between my triangles. I'm not butting them up against each other because a lot of them they're all hand cut, so they're not cut perfectly. And I don't want to try to fit them into each other perfectly because I'm going to get it wrong and things are going to go crooked. So by allowing there to be this gap in between them, it will give more of the illusion when it's finished that things are lined up perfectly when in fact, that's impossible because I hand cut all these triangles. Okay, so now I have all of those beautiful triangles in there, And again, the edges where it cuts off is kind of wonky, but that's okay because it's all getting covered up. I'm going to go ahead and start with these flowers. Now, I did have this thing where, for whatever reason, I just felt like I didn't want these flowers to go off the edge. I wanted them to be inside the margins of my page. I didn't want to have to clip off the leaves or anything. And I had sized them to 6 by 6 when I cut them, so I knew that they would fit just fine, just like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some tape runner on the back of them, and I've collected from my stash. So I have 2 of the add-ons from the scrapbooking store kit this month, and then I also pulled in from my stash some letter stickers and these beautiful epoxy flares from Scrap and Happy Studio, and they're these black and white snowflakes. So I'm going to pop my photo up just a little bit. Oh, and the little Hello Winter. I decided it is the perfect color. It's from an older Simple Stories ephemera pack. I think the name of the line was Sub-Zero. Does that sound right? Anyway, so that's what I'm working with, and that's going to act as my title as well. So I'm just adding 2 layers of unfun foam. This does not have the adhesive on the back. I thought I ordered the stuff that had adhesive on the back, but no. So anyway, but I put 2 layers on, so it gave it a really nice lift. And I'm just going to kind of wiggle this around a little bit, so I'm really happy with the placement of my photo. I did orient it a little bit more towards the top because I knew I wanted to add in my title below the photo, and so I'm going to use these Older Than Dirt black glitter thickers. I have been hoarding these forever because they're like my favorite font other than Fitzgerald, and I love them so much. I don't even remember what they're called, but they're this black glitter deliciousness. And I'm going to use the numbers to go ahead and add the year that this photo was taken, which would have been the winter between 1931 and 1932. I'm not 100% sure exactly like what month, but I know the year, so we're going to go ahead and add that to the photo. And now the next thing I want to do is to embellish, and the way I decided to embellish it was to go ahead and embellish just the triangles that were that baby blue cardstock. So every other triangle on this particular layout has some design to it, right? It has some pattern. Even the yellow has like this creamy watercolor pattern to it. But those baby blue pieces were just baby blue cardstock because I could not find in my stash. Shocking, I know. I couldn't find a blue pattern. It must be a color I use a lot because I had it in cardstock, which is weird because I never have colored cardstock colors, but I have that color. And then I didn't have any pattern papers. So obviously, I must like those light baby blues. So every one of the blue triangles is going to have either a cluster of embellishments or just some Nuvo drops. These are Nuvo stone drops. They're the Gold Rush ones. So when they dry, they have this amazing like texture to them. They're so cool. I love them. But they're probably my favorite are the stone drops because I was never someone who liked the Nuvo drops until I got a couple bottles of these stone drops, and now I've kind of gotten the hang of how to use them. But I think the stone drops are way easier to use than, like, they just perfectly make the perfect little Nuvo pearly drop things. Anyway, so I'm using some brads, the gold brads, and I'm using some buttons and these epoxy flares, and I'm just giving each of the blue triangles a little bit of something on them. What this does is it makes it look a little bit more random, which I wanted, without it being terribly random. So, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to create all these little clusters, and then I'm going to add an auxiliary cluster or a little bit of an extra cluster down here beside the photo just to pull it all together. And then the rest of this layout I'm going to leave plain because that half is really busy. But I really like how this turned out. I think that it is a beautiful heritage photo or a beautiful heritage page. I think the colors I pulled into it gave it that 1930s feel, and got rid of the Christmas feel from those scrapbooking store papers. And yeah, this is going to complete this layout. You can find links below to the store, to the scrapbooking store, and to all of my social media, so you can come and follow along with me. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye!